Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. If you feel perpetually stuck, like so many of us do,
hmm
like you're just running the same emotional script every single day, anchored to these old worries or patterns that just,
Hmm.
they just don't serve you anymore. If that sounds familiar, you are in the right place.
Today, we are undertaking a very grounded and necessary mission. We're exploring the physiological roots of what keeps us in this emotional survival mode.
Right.
And we're not just talking about mindset, we're really diving into the hard science of how your body's chemistry relates to time.
It's not just thoughts, but the actual chemicals.
Exactly. Specifically, how stress hormones literally anchor your capacity to change to the
Yeah.
past.
That is such a crucial distinction. Because for people navigating these really high-pressure lives, that feeling of chronic stress it's not just a mood, it is, chemically speaking, a cage.
It really is.
And we want to show you the neurological and the molecular blueprint of that cage, but more importantly, the key to unlocking it. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're going to be using concepts from epigenetics, molecular biology, and even the emerging field of neurocardiology
Yes.
to really prove that the present moment, is the only true doorway to self-rewiring and to, possibility.
To start, we really have to look at this perpetual motion machine that's running inside all of us. It's called the thinking feeling loop.
Okay, the thinking-feeling loop. It sounds simple, but I have a feeling it's devastatingly effective at keeping us on repeat. So tell us how this loop begins.
It all begins with a thought. And a thought is essentially an immaterial impulse, right? It's a frequency, an idea.
Cool.
But immediately, that thought triggers a biochemical reaction in your brain. And the brain releases a specific cocktail of chemical signals or messengers that perfectly match that thought.
So if I think a thought about, say, a past moment of frustration, what happens next in my body?
Well, those specific chemicals, those messengers, they immediately travel through your body and they cause you to feel physically exactly the way the original thought was. So if the thought was frustrating, your body now feels frustration.
The body is the feedback mechanism.
It is. And here's the kicker. That feeling, that emotion, then generates more thoughts that match it,
Oh, wow.
which then release more of those same chemicals.
So it's a completely closed system,
Yeah.
a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the more we run that loop, the more we reinforce the neurological pathways,
Right. You're just paving a superhighway for misery, in a way.
making it easier and easier for the brain to just go straight back to that familiar, emotional state.
Exactly. Redundant repetition literally hardwires the brain into these predictable patterns. Over time, the brain becomes an artifact of your past thinking.
An artifact. I like that.
It's structured based on the emotions you felt yesterday and the day before that. And the body, because it's been saturated with these chemicals, becomes emotionally conditioned into the past.
That brings up such a fascinating point about the link between emotion and time. Because if emotions are, chemically speaking, the residue of past experiences,
Then the very moment you wake up and, unconsciously look for that familiar feeling, that specific flavor of worry or guilt or inadequacy,
you're not starting your day in the present.
you starting your day in the past. Your body is the unconscious mind, and once it's chemically saturated, it believes the emotion is the experience. It then compels you to seek out circumstances that validate that feeling.
And that is exactly where survival mode comes in. Because if that thought loop is about a threat, maybe a perceived threat, a memory of a car accident, or like an email you're dreading from your boss,
Right.
the sympathetic nervous system it instantly activates, immobilizes huge amounts of energy through stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline.
In antiquity, that fight, run, or hide response was genius. It was an amazing evolutionary tool.
Absolutely.
It was swift, and crucially, it was temporary. Once the tiger was gone, the system reset. But in our modern lives, the threat is always anticipated. It's always around the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we maintain this state long term. And that's when chronic stress flips from being adaptive to maladaptive.
I want to linger on that word, maladaptive, because the source material we looked at suggests something even more intense is happening when this state is maintained. Something almost like an addiction.
It is absolutely an addiction. The body, after being subjected to that rush of cortisol and adrenaline for months or even years, it becomes completely conditioned to that chemical environment. It expects it.
It needs its fix.
It does.
Us?
In fact, if you tried to remove yourself from the drama that generates those feelings, the body would send signals to the brain that feel like withdrawal anxiety, unease, panic.
Wow.
It compels the mind to generate thoughts that will bring back that familiar chemical rush. The body is effectively addicted to the hormones of its own high alert, which makes it terrifying to leave the perceived safety of that known, stressful identity.
So when we're living in this constant state of chemical survival, our perception of reality has to shift. Right? It shifts dramatically. We become intense materialists. We start to define reality almost entirely with our external senses. We only believe what we can see, hear, feel, and touch.
And that makes total sense. If the threat is external, a difficult person, a deadline, a financial problem, your whole focus has to shift outward to monitor the environment for danger.
Precisely. And this is where we get to the energetic cost. The hormones of stress, they narrow our focus, they divert all our attention and all our energy to the outer world.
Okay.
But we have to remember this critical equation. Attention equals energy.
Right. So if all of my attention, all of my energy is tied up in the external world, monitoring people, controlling my schedule, solving problems, where is the energy left?
There is none.
There's nothing left for the inner world. No creative energy left in my thoughts and feelings to imagine or build something new.
That's the limitation right there. We become energetically bonded to our past-present reality through these deep emotional connections. When your energy is locked into the known world of your problems, it becomes difficult, if not impossible, to feel or think equal to anything unknown.
Like a better job or better health.
Or profound peace. Yes, you end up trying to affect matter with matter.
You're trying to force outcomes through sheer effort, through working harder, manipulating things, just exhausting yourself.
Exactly. And that approach requires tremendous effort and time, and it just reinforces that feeling of separation from the future you actually desire. You feel like you have to fight for every inch of progress.
Okay, here is where it gets really, really interesting for me. The link between how intense an emotion is and where we put our focus. So if I'm addicted to the feeling of, say, unworthiness, I'm going to constantly be looking for external validation or for situations that just confirm that feeling for me.
And you are giving away your power every single time you do that. The stronger that negative emotion you're conditioned to, be it anger, guilt, unworthiness, the more you automatically place your attention on the external cause of that feeling.
So you're literally diverting your creative energy to the very things that keep you miserable.
You're putting the power outside of yourself, onto the environment, the people, the schedule, and you're robbing yourself of the energy needed for internal creation.
Okay, so the good news is that the only way to break that chemical addiction, to stop that thinking-feeling loop, isn't through just sheer force of will.
No, it's not. It's through a complete and radical shift into the present moment. This is the biological nexus for change.
Why the present moment? Why is it the only place change is biologically possible?
Well, because the past is just a memory and the future is just an idea. Neither one actually exists in physical form. The only time your body can receive a new chemical signal, the only time you can install new neurological hardware is now.
Right, so if I'm remembering the past, I'm just signaling the old genes.
And if you're predicting the future, you're usually just worrying based on the past.
So to step into what you call the quantum field, this realm of possibility and the unknown, we have to temporarily suspend our reliance on the known. We have to stop thinking about that predictable future or remembering the familiar past.
That's the surrender. It means temporarily existing as, and this sounds a bit strange, but nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere in no time.
That's not just some abstract philosophy, though, is it?
No, it's a measurable physical state. It means letting go of the identity that's tied to your physical environment, your schedule, your pain, your memory. You exist just for a moment as pure consciousness, as awareness unbound by your history.
And that surrender, it requires a neurological shift that we can actually measure in our brainwave frequencies. Can you walk us through what that shift looks like? Why does it matter?
Absolutely. So the thinking, analytical mind, the one that's constantly judging and worrying and monitoring the external world, it operates primarily in high-range beta brainwaves.
That's the stress state.
That is the state of stress and vigilance. To move into the unknown, we have to quiet that analytical mind. And we do that by resting our attention and relaxing the body.
Through things like meditation or even just conscious breathing.
Yes. Through those practices, we move the brain down in frequency. We shift from beta to alpha waves, which is a state of light relaxation and imagination, and then down to theta waves.
Okay, what's unique about theta?
Theta waves are fascinating. They represent the doorway between the conscious, analytical mind and the subconscious operating system.
I see.
When that analytical mind is quieted in theta, the subconscious, which houses all the programming, all the habits, all the emotional conditioning, it becomes highly suggestible
So you can finally communicate new ideas directly to your deep operating system.
without the constant interference and judgment of your busy mind.
Yes. And crucially, when we step out of the way, something else steps in to help.
That's the role of the autonomic nervous system, the ANS. It controls all the automatic restorative functions: digestion, healing, hormonal balance, growth, repair,
All the good stuff.
all the good stuff. When you are consciously forcing and stressing in beta, the sympathetic system is overriding it. But when you quiet the mind and center yourself in the present moment, the ANS finally has the chance to step in and restore order, balance, and wholeness. It starts healing the damage the stress hormones caused.
So we've created this biological possibility for change by getting into this state of centered presence. How do we start using it to build a new identity?
It all comes down to awareness and choice. Awareness is the key that interrupts those automatic emotional patterns.
Okay.
When you're sitting in that quiet present moment and a familiar thought pops up, a worry about money, a judgment about yourself, you now have the awareness to see it as a pattern, not as a truth.
And the moment we see the pattern, we can stop it.
We actively stop ourselves from going down that chemical rabbit hole. In that conscious interruption, you're inhibiting the conditioning process. You are no longer signaling the same old genes.
That's the moment of choice.
That is the moment you reclaim your power. You're telling your body, nope, we are not doing that anymore.
So we've created the space. How do we fill it with the future we want? The sources talk about combining a clear intention with an elevated emotion.
This is the formula for creating a new state of being. The clear intention from the mind creates a coherent brain. The elevated emotion, love, joy, passion from the heart creates a coherent heart.
Coherent brain, coherent heart.
And when they are coherent, you're emitting a unified signal into that quantum field of possibility. You are literally changing your electromagnetic signature.
And this is where mental rehearsal comes in, which is not just wishful thinking.
Not at all. Mental rehearsal is the process of practicing this new state of being. You start to imagine the future self and the new reality with feeling. You're installing the neurological hardware before the external experience even happens.
So by feeling the emotions of the future now, your brain and body start to believe the event has already occurred.
You're priming the body to accept this new reality.
Yes. To really anchor this, we have to talk about epigenetics. It sounds incredibly complex, but it's maybe the most empowering part of this. You mentioned that elevated emotions like love, joy, and especially gratitude are powerful chemical signals. Why is gratitude the ultimate state to receive?
Because gratitude signals abundance. When you feel gratitude, you are signaling to your body, to the unconscious mind, that the new reality, the healing, the joy, has already happened.
I see.
It's not a struggle anymore. It's a reality you are receiving right now. This internal experience is a powerful chemical signal that literally flips switches on your DNA.
So we're not changing the DNA itself, but we're changing which genes are being expressed.
Precisely. We're sending signals that upregulate genes for growth and repair genes that promote health and vitality, and at the same time, we're down-regulating the production of the stress hormones that kept you stuck.
You're telling your internal chemical factories to stop producing misery and start producing wholeness.
That's it. The goal is to condition the body to forget what the illness or the lack or the pain feels like, and instead teach the body emotionally what the desired future feels like. You become so conscious of those old reactive patterns that they just can't slip past your awareness anymore.
And that leads to a new state of being, where the body finally follows the mind into the unknown. That is it's a stunning shift. We move from that exhausting, difficult, Newtonian struggle of matter trying to affect matter.
It's constantly forcing things.
To the quantum approach of energy and consciousness influencing matter, allowing the future to sort of unfold and find us.
But this process of deep transformation, it's not a quick fix. It's not a single light switch moment. It requires dedication, practice, and a commitment to becoming more devoted to the potential of a new future than to the familiarity of your comfortable, chemically anchored past.
So as you move forward from this deep dive, maybe just
Yeah.
release the urgency, release the judgment of linear time. You are exactly where you need to be.
You are not behind. You are becoming.